I hope you are all safe and sound. Please take care of yourself. That is the need of today's time. So it is better to take care of ourselves all the times. So better to go back to what topic we have decided yesterday and what topic we have started yesterday. And of course, it is all about history of novel. Yesterday, even I tried to tell you, of course, I'm going to repeat all the things, but still, uh, it is a precondition to understand novel. It is a precondition to understand what literature is, to understand what novel is first. Are you getting me, friends? What I simply said, that the precondition is to understand literature, to understand what novel is. And we have to find out what history of novel is. And so better to go back to what literature is. So friends, it is all about the literature which we have the history of, what we can say, the history of 5,000 years. When there was no script available, of course, at the time, there was the oral tradition of literature. The oral tradition was in the form of what we can say, it is in the form of songs. Different cultural songs, traditional songs, which interpreted all about what their life was, the life of the people was. And so, of course, that oral tradition of literature took us into the new phase when we found the script and we started writing it down on the paper. And so there came the written tradition of work, written tradition of literature. And so literature is what is called as oral and written body of work, which consists particular use of language, which gives pleasure and reflects human life. It's the simple definition made by, of course, it is very difficult to define literature. Why it becomes very difficult to define literature? There are reasons, and we have to find out those reasons even. Literature has no bounds. Literature has no limit. Literature cannot be thought about in one sense. And so, of course, it is very difficult to define. So, in general, it is defined as it is the reflection of human life. It is the reflection of society. Some people even say that this is the mirror of life. This is the mirror of human life. This is the mirror of society. At general sense, at particular, the people or the philosophers make use of such kinds of definitions for this. And so, friends, it is what I said sometime before, that is the oral and written body of work which consists particular use of language. What literature needs, there are some parameters to understand what literature, and the very first parameter is to understand the linguistic use in literature. Unless and until we have a language, we have the understanding of language, we cannot go to literature. So the linguistic comprehension is needed at all times to understand literature. Literature which gives us pleasure. Of course, what are the functions, what are the purposes of life will be discussed later, but in definition it is given in the very beginning. It gives pleasure and it reflects the human life. So the three things which we found in this definition, the first is that it is all about what the particular use of language. Literature takes the help of language, not in a general sense, it is in a particular or specific shape. Literature needs the particular use of language. What does it mean? That the language which we use in day-to-day life cannot be used, may not be used in literature, because literature has some parameters. And so it gives pleasure even. Literature has its own function, basic function, it is to give pleasure to the human, and that's why it is a reflection of the human life. And so, of course, literature comes from fine arts. What are those 5 fine arts? First is painting, second is sculpture, third one is architecture, fourth one is, of course, music, and last one is literature. Last but not least, again, last does not mean that that it really comes last. All those 5 fine arts have their own importance. They may come first to what the people think about. And so these 5 fine arts, of them, one is literature, on which we are going to discuss today. What is literature? That's what the question comes to our mind. And so the word literature, what is this? Literature is what? The question is, of course, the question is what literature is. When we buy any electronic gadget, when we buy any mobile phone, we get the user manual. Friends, is that user manual a part of literature? Is it a literature? What do you think? The set of instruction we get in the user manual when we buy any electronic gadget, and of course, can we call it a literature? Friends, we cannot. We cannot call that user manual a literature, because the function, the purpose of that user manual is different. It is not the same purpose the literature has. And so the user manual cannot be called, the instruction set which we get in the user manual cannot be called literature, because it has its own different function, which has its own different purpose. What are then the literary examples? What are then the masterpieces of literature? You take the example, a very famous example, of course, from the Indian tradition, Mahabharata, Ramayana. We have so many. We have Jnaneshwari. We have so many. We have Bhagavad Gita. So all those holy books are the best examples of classical literature. Okay, what classical is, it is not the matter of discussion today, but it is the, of course, the best example of literature. And so, of course, we have so many. Even we have Paradise Lost, we have Paradise Regained, we have Hamlet, we have Gitanjali, and there are all varieties of literature. So there are some famous statements regarding literature. One very famous statement about literature made by Lawrence Lerner. He had simplified what literature is. He has said, literature is the language well used. Literature is the language well used. Of course, again, there comes language. There comes the use of language. The linguistic performance in literature has its prime vital importance. And so, of course, we have such kinds of statements. One is very famous, which you already know. We have discussed it last year about when we have thought about poetry. When we went to Romanticism and the Romantic poet William Wordsworth, when he has said that it is a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings recollected in tranquility. So that famous statement, of course, that statement comes for the poetry, but poetry again is the part of what literature is. And so that can be applied to literature even. Literature, something which is spontaneously overflowed, something which is spontaneously written, something which is written deliberately is called what literature is. There are some reasons. Why? Because unless and until there are reasons, we cannot go for. And so those reasons even make us think of what literature is. So that is the basic concept of what literature is. Now we have to find out what are the qualities of literature. There are some qualities. As I have said, actually we have to go to the novel, but of course, without understanding what literature is, we cannot understand what novel is. We are just simply making the foundation for understanding the real topic, the main topic. So first of all, now we'll go to qualities of literature. Now, first one, as we have discussed earlier, it is all about the particular use of language. Particular use of language. As I said, that day-to-day language cannot be used in literature. It is not even used. Every writer, every poet, every dramatist has his own style of writing. And in his style, he is well aware he was well aware of using language. And so it becomes one of the very important functions or qualities of literature. Second one is, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. You might have heard this statement many times, that a thing of beauty is a joy forever. Is a joy forever. Something which gives us joy. And joy can be found in beauty. If there is beauty, of course, it is going to give us joy. And so if it is, yes, literature works for this. Literature is nothing but the beauty. And that beauty, of course, gives us pleasure. It gives us joy. And it gives joy forever. So I think this is the main quality. Next one is that it lasts long. It is for all the time. It is everlasting. It is everlasting. Something which lasts long. Otherwise, we might not have heard or read Naneshwari written in 12th century. 12th century, some 800, 900 years back. Something was written and we still believe in it. We still read it. We get information. We get pleasure by reading this. There are so many. We have Homer's Iliad, we have Mahabharata, we have Bible, we have Quran, we have Ramayana. We have so many best examples by which we are getting something which inspires our life, which motivates our life, which enlightens our life. And why it is enlightening till today? Because it is everlasting. It has no time bounds. It has no time limits. It even, the next, I'm shifting to the next quality. Of course, it is a source of knowledge. Literature is, of course, the great source of knowledge. Once I remember one example. It may or may not be suitable for this discussion, but still, let me tell you how it becomes the source of knowledge. Once when we were in college and studying for English literature, once our lecturer told us to watch the movie Devdas. That time it was released and he told us to watch movie. Of course, when the teacher tells us to watch the movie, it becomes the joy. Yes, all the students became very happy. Some students, we do not get, we were not fortunate to go to the theater and watch the movie. So we went to the library and got the book and read the book Devdas. And after 8 days, in the next week, our sir started the discussion on what Devdas is. And he started asking different questions. And that was, of course, a very interesting discussion to us. But the question was, why he told us to read or to watch Devdas? The question was this. Yes, so we asked our sir, why, sir? Why? He is a completely drunkard person, and you told us to read and watch about what that personality is. He told us that that's what we have to find out. Whether it is about optimism or pessimism. Yes, you get what you want. So can you understand, friends, students, why he told us to read or to watch the movie? Not to become like him. So don't you think that even it becomes the source of knowledge? Even the negative things also can become the source of knowledge, that what he has taught, our sir has taught through again what we call as literature. And so it becomes the source of knowledge even. It becomes the great source of knowledge and information. One more, that it is very creative. The very next quality of literature, it is very creative. Creative activity. Unless and until there is creativity, writers, poets, and novelists cannot write. They are very creative in their minds. They are creative in their vocabulary, in their language, in their linguistic understanding. And that's why what comes to us is the creative activity in the form of literature. The next quality of literature is what the literature directs and reflects the human life and society. What we get, what we find from literature, of course, we find, yes, the reflection of society and the humans. Yes, it is all about reflection, what we have discussed sometime before. Now, the next one is literature. It is may be very important one for you. Literature is meant for entertainment. Of course, this is the main function. Another main function of literature, that literature is meant for entertainment. It is even meant for pleasure, and it is meant for information. So these three are the basic functions, main functions of what literature is. And so number one is entertainment, second is it gives us pleasure, and one more is that it gives us information even. Is there any subject limit? Is there any limit to the subject? Sky is the only limit in literature. So what is it? What is said in Marathi? JJ na dekhe Ravi, tete dekhe Kavi. So it simply means, of course, language doesn't mind. Language doesn't matter here. What the writer wants to say from what he has created is very important. So there is no limit to the subjects even. It is the most effective way of expression of emotions and feelings. I have said earlier that it is the spontaneous overflow. It is the most effective way of expression of emotions and feelings. There is no other most effective way like this. Literature is there. Literature helps us when we have to express. When expression comes, I always remember one thought, one proverb expression is better than suppression. Literature can take out from suppression, depression. Suppression leads to depression. Depression leads to anxiety. Anxiety leads to worries. And of course, we go in stress. And literature is there to take out us from all this strain and stress. And so, of course, expression is very important. Whenever any human being is in any problem, any difficulty, must go to literature. Literature will surely help us. And so, the next is significant art expressing art and beauty. It is the significant art which expresses art and beauty, truth and beauty. Art, of course, it is all about art, five fine arts, what we have said. So it is an art which leads us to beauty, and that beauty is, of course, about truth. Though it is all about imagination, it is not at all about imagination, because it has a personal style, and that personal style leads us to universal interest. Literature can give us the universal interest. The personal style becomes the universal style. The personal style becomes the universal interest, universal fact. And so, of course, the literature is helping in all such kinds of things. So these are all qualities about what literature is. And now we are shifting to what are the forms of literature. But before shifting to the forms of literature, let me give one best example about what literature is. Literature can do anything. Literature can be the solution for all the problems. How? Let us find out. Before going to the forms of literature, of course, we have to see the first very important, may not be first, but very important form of literature, that is novel. But before going to the novel, let us think about what literature is actually, how literature brings beauty and truth in our life. How many of you have seen, friends, the movie Sant Tukaram in Marathi? If you have seen, you will understand what I'm saying. If you have not seen, please watch that movie and you will understand the power of literature. What we traditionally believe about what has happened with Sant Tukaram, the person who has wrote many abhangas, he had a collection of all those abhangas in the form of gatha, and he used to go to different villages and used to awaken the people through his kirtan and kirtanas and abhangas. He used to awaken the people, he used to awaken the society about all which he found which was wrong. And so, of course, that person, one who had a great collection of gatha, abhangas, once it was drowned by some people from his village. It was drowned deliberately. That was a kind of punishment given to him for some other reason. What has happened later, friends? Of course, this person, Sant Tukaram, went in depression. He went in complete depression because all his collection of all his poems, all his abhangas, was in vain now. Was completely in vain, and so he was in depression. He was just sitting by the side of the river and thinking about how he could get it back. It was, in reality, it was difficult to get it. And of course, he was thinking about, he was just calling his God. He was just, he was expecting some kind of magical power to happen, some supernatural power to happen, and so he could get his abhangas back, his collection of poems, the book. He wanted it back. So he was simply thinking about his God and all. What we traditionally believe, people, we believe the culture or the religion tells us that he got his abhangas back because of some powers. It may be some force. It may be some force of maybe magic, supernatural power, or it may be the power of the God. What he found, he got all his abhangas back in a correct position, in proper position as it is, without any loss. So that was, of course, a great magic. Magic happened. What we believe in it and what is told to us from different generations, from generations to generations, this message is passed that this has happened. But friends, the thing which I have referred just now, the movie in Marathi, Sant Tukaram, in which the director, the writer, or the producer, they have taken the great step to tell what the people, to tell the reality of what might have happened. And so, of course, what is shown in the movie is all about, yes, when Sant Tukaram went in depression, he was sitting by the side of the river. This news was spread all over. This news spread all over all the villages, and all his devotees, all his followers, all his fan followers started going to Dehu, his native place, to meet Sant Tukaram. They started going to Dehu. They have forgotten they have forgotten all their tasks, they have forgotten their personal things, and they started going to Dehu. When they came, they found that he was just simply sitting by the side of the river. He has completely stopped all the contacts with all the people, even with the family members. So he was just waiting for. And at that time, all those people who gathered there just to meet, just to console, they just did not come to meet him. They came to console him for what he has lost. But he was not coming back from his position. Sant Tukaram was not coming back from his depression. So people just simply sat by the side of him and started thinking about what he had taught them through his abhangas and kirtans. And they remembered all those. They recollected all those thoughts and started singing all those songs back, all those abhangas back. They started singing different abhangas again and again. They repeated this. And of course, can you understand what has happened? Of course, all those abhangas he got back. And again, the script might be written. They have got it in the oral form, and that oral form was shifted or transformed into written form. See the beauty of literature transferred into the truth. That is the aesthetic beauty, and that's why what I said that is the main quality of what literature is. Yes, so the beauty and the truth can become the part of human life, and of course that credit only goes to literature. So that is all about what we are talking about, what literature is. I think now it is the time to shift to forms of literature. There are major three forms. We are not going to discuss minor forms. First is poetry. What poetry is? Poetry simply can be defined, very simply can be defined, something which is some thought which is written in the form of language and rhythm. Somewhere there is a language and rhythm. Something which is expressed with the help of language and rhythm can become poetry. Poetry, as William Wordsworth has said, it is a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings, recollected in tranquility and all. We know. We will not go in detail of this part of literature because that's not the topic today. Poetry can be subjective and objective. That's enough for this. The second form of literature is drama. Play. Last year, we have seen all about what drama is. Drama is nothing but the performance on the stage with the help of dialogues and characters. There are four basic things when we think about drama. Drama has an action, drama has characters, drama has place, that is setting, that is background, and one more thing, drama has dialogue. That is all about drama. Can be divided into tragedy, comedy, and tragicomedy. That is what we have discussed last year, so better not to go to more details about what drama is. Now it is the time, the real time to go to the actual topic, novel. Then why we have discussed all about just now, why we have spent this some 20 to 25 minutes on discussing what literature is. As I have said earlier, that it becomes the precondition to understand the background. Unless and until we make the foundation, we cannot yes, build the pillars on this. So we have just simply tried to go for in all these details of what literature is, and now it is the time to reach to what novel is, and after that we'll go to the history of novel. Novel is nothing but the fictitious story. Fictitious simply means something which is imaginary. Does it mean all is written in the form of novel is imaginary? May not be. Fictitious means something which is exaggerated, something which is told with exaggeration, something which is told with some extra information. That is why it is called as a fictitious story. Of course, the word novel comes from Italian word novella, and which means new, something which is new. We might have used the word novel many times, as it is a novel. It is a novel idea. Novel idea. It is a new idea. In this sense, novel becomes. In that sense, novel is something new. Some new thought is expressed. Some new emotion is expressed, and that's why it becomes a fictitious story. There comes one very important and very descriptive definition of what novel is. A novel is relatively a long narrative fiction. What is it? It is a long narrative fiction. Poetry is written in short and novel is written long. Why? Because the writer has the freedom, the novelist has the freedom to express his thought in descriptive, in narrative form. And that's why it becomes long. And so it is called as a long narrative fiction which describes intimate human experiences. What is expressed in the novel? What is expressed? Of course, the human experiences are described normally in prose form. What is it all about? Yes, there is a narration of human experiences. It is written in the form of prose and it becomes long, and that is why it is called a fictitious story. There comes one very important definition made by Merriam-Webster dictionary. See, what is it? An invented prose. An invented. It has not come naturally. It has come deliberately. Invented. It is invented. It is found. It is discovered. It is an invented prose narrative that is usually long and complex. In first dictionary, the word complex was not used. There was the word long, and in this definition of Merriam-Webster, the writer says that it is long and complex. What I think, why the word complex has been used in it. Life is all about simplicity and complexity. Do you agree? Do you agree? Life is all about complexities. So that complexity, if novel or literature is the reflection of human life, if it is the reflection of mirror of society, of course that complexity of the human life, complexity of the personal style enters into literature. And that's why I think they have deliberately used this word in this definition. And that is what? An invented prose narrative that is usually long and complex and deals especially with human experiences through connected sequence of events. See, this is very important part, that there is the sequence of events. There are different events, and these events are arranged in sequence, in the proper sequence, and then it becomes the novel. What is a novel? Novel is a fictitious story. It is long, it is complex, it is even, it expresses some human experiences, and of course, it is written with proper sequence. It is written in prose style. These are all the important aspects of what novel is. So, friends, can you understand these two definitions? I'm repeating all those two definitions again. The first one is, a novel is a relatively long narrative fiction which describes intimate human experiences, normally in prose form. And the second one is an invented prose narrative that is usually long and complex and deals especially with human experiences through connected sequence of events. This second definition is made by Merriam-Webster. Now, let us shift our discussion from what novel is to characteristics of novel. Characteristics of novel. There are some aspects, there are some important things about what novel is we must understand. Unless and until we know all this, we cannot. And it is said, it is very aggressively said that 18th century is gifted by novel. 18th century has got the gift, the great gift, and that is novel, because in 18th century there was a great rise of novel. It does not mean that there was no novel before. First novel was written in 700 century. Of course, it was in India. There are some other examples even. We have the history of novel of 2000 years. Yes, but in 18th century it flourished. Yes, it got its great inspiration too. There were some reasons even, because 18th century was the century called as it was an age of intellectuals. We may laugh on this word. 18th century is an age of intellectuals. Does it mean that the centuries before were having no intellectual persons at that time? Does it mean? Of course, it does not mean. If we go to the 16th century, we have one literary person named William Shakespeare. In 16th century, that intellectual person has given that intellect, and even that helps us today also. So it does not mean that other centuries have not found the intellectual persons, but in 18th century something different was happened, and that was, it is called as an age of intellectuals and sentimentals. And sentimentals, yes, intellectualism and sentimentalism, both isms. Isms means theories, theorization, principles, ideologies. The different ideologies have entered at that time, and these ideologies have changed the minds of all those humans at that time. It has changed the ideologies of the society, and so that's why it is called as the age of intellectual and sentimentals. And one is very important. I think we have to spend some more time for understanding the word realistic. Yes, 18th century was the age of intellectuals, sentimentals, and realistic people. If it is the fictitious story, if the novel is a fictitious story, whether it has reality or not, whether it has truth or not, yes, of course it is there. Fictitious does not mean all imaginary. Sometimes it may be completely, or many times it completely cannot. And so, of course, there was realism. Realism entered in 18th century, and of course that entered into literature. Why realistic? Just take the example of Sant Tukaram's life. His life was all about intellectual mind. He was sentimental. He was, of course, had all those responsibilities of family and society. He was completing. So he was intellectual as well as sentimental. Was he realistic? Yes, he was. He was. And that realistic point was given to us by that movie. What we were told by generations and generations, what oral tradition has come to us, and what we have believed in is a different part. Is really a different part. But what is the reality? The reality is how he has got his Abhangas back. Yes, not by any magic, not by any powers, but got by his fan followers. Yes, of course. Again, there was the recollection of, take the example of that definition, spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings recollected in tranquility. All those powerful feelings of one person were recollected by all his fan followers in tranquility, and we come to the reality. So, of course, this is the main characteristic of novel. Next one is another main aspect or characteristic is that it is most purposeful and virtuous life. Novel teaches us to be purposeful. Novel makes us to reach to virtuous life. It does not mean that novel and drama does not. Those forms also help us to reach to purposeful life and virtuous life. But here, in 18th century, something different has happened. In 18th century, of course, because of some other reasons which we are going to discuss sometime before. And at that time, you will understand how the life of the people became purposeful, how the life of the people became virtuous, and that the same thing was reflected in the writing, same thing was reflected in novel. And so the characteristic, it becomes the important characteristic. The another characteristic is that there was the spirit of realism and denial of romanticism. The people were not romantic at that time. Romantic does not mean what we always mean at general sense. If we enter into the specific meaning of the word romantic, it has at surface level it means emotions and feelings, and at deep level we can reach to what? Yes, the adventures of life. Yes, and so the people left they went away from romanticism and they entered into complete spirit of reality, because now all those happened because of industrial revolution which took place in 18th century. Industrial revolution was the main reason for having transformation in the life of the people. How? Let us find out. Industrial revolution took place and the trade and commerce flourished. In Europe especially, trade and commerce flourished, and it gave rise to one class of the society, and that was middle class. Before that, if you go to any kind of literature in 16th century, in 17th century, or before that, we only had the two references. One was of lower class, one was of upper class. You take the example of William Shakespearean plays. You'll find all those plays were all about upper class, kings and queens, and yes. Otherwise, there was lower class. And in 18th century, that industrial revolution, trade and commerce gave rise to, yes, middle class. Middle class was risen, but that middle class was educated. That was the basic important thing. That was the positive thing of that class, that they were educated. And at the same time, there came the machine. The invention of machine took place, and machine took the place of people. Though there was a rise of middle class, but at the same time there was a rise of machines, and machine took the place of people, and people had now extra time. People were free. Yes, people got some freedom. People got some free time. They got leisure, and of course they wanted something to entertain themselves, and so they wanted something to read. They wanted something to read. That time, dramas might not be affordable for them. Poetry was beyond their understanding, because, of course, they were from middle class. They had their middle class tendency, and so they wanted something to read. And that's the reason. That's the reason that their life became purposeful, that their life became virtuous, and they wanted something to read. And of course, that expectation gave rise to novel. Why novel flourished in 18th century? Because the people wanted it. There was the need of novel that time. And so, of course, everyday life and the common everyday life and the problems of common men were described in novels. Before that, you take the examples of all the poems, and you will find all those poems are all about higher class, upper class, and not about middle class. So middle class didn't find any interest in it. They wanted something of their own. And so, of course, the writers have got this. And we found different types of novel, like social novel, political novel, cultural happenings, scientific progress. All those issues came in the form of prose style, that is in the form of novel. And later, of course, it gave rise to freedom, liberty, even feminism. Some female writers also started writing, and we have the history of such kind of things. Now, what was the Indian scenario at that time? What was happening in India? And of course, in India, the same thing was happening. It is said to be the first. Raja Mohan's wife was said to be the first Indian novel written in English by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. And that was the great credit India has got. And of course, there came the trio. The three persons started writing at the initial stage, and they were Mulk Raj Anand, R.K. Narayan, and Raja Rao. Mulk Raj Anand came with some social issues like Untouchables and Coolie. He wrote these two masterpieces in his lifetime. One is Untouchables, second is Coolie. And R.K. Narayan, we know that in the first lesson we have found An Astrologer's Day. The story is taken from Malgudi Days, written by R.K. Narayan. He has even wrote the novel Guide, on which the movie was released by, that was the old movie in which Dev Anand has played the main role. Raja Rao came with Kanthapura, his masterpiece. And there are some many examples like Anita Desai. She came with the Cry. She came with her title Cry the Peacock. It is the Stream of Consciousness novel. What is it? We'll find it later. Amitav Ghosh, another novelist, came with Calcutta Chromosome. Vikram Seth, another writer, came with A Suitable Boy. There came one more person, very famous person. Now he is living in America, Salman Rushdie. He is banned from India and Pakistan. He is banned by Rajiv Gandhi for writing satanic verses. He wrote one novel, Midnight Children, on the theme of partition. Who are these two midnight children, friends? Yes? And of course, these two midnight children we have got on 14th August 1947. And they are India and Pakistan. On this theme, on this political theme, he has written, and later he wrote satanic verses. It was all about religion, and so of course he was banned, and now he's living in America. Arundhati Roy wrote God of Small Things. Kiran Desai wrote The Inheritance of Loss. So there came many writers like this, and the history we have of novel. This is the history of all about this history of novel. And novel comes with yes, entertainment. Novel comes with pleasure. Novel comes with information even. That is, I think, all about in today's lecture. Tomorrow we'll go to, yes, the types of different novels. We have to go into the details of types of novels and elements of novels. Please do not forget to read what is given in the textbook. Please read the textbook, and then you will understand it better. I wanted to tell you all those things in Marathi for your better understanding, but let us wait for some more time. In tomorrow's lecture, we'll discuss all these things in short in Marathi, and then we'll go for elements of novel and then the types of novels. Thank you very much.